Go! Boom! And good morning to a very extraordinarily special, delicious day in the Good Listening To show, where I'm going to be interviewing in a moment Mark Walmsley, or Walmsley. I'm sure you're not called that. I'll blow some really happy smoke at you in a minute, but it's been a lovely journey to curate you to this point because we've had many lovely conversations. But anyway, you're very welcome, Mark. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. 5 degrees is not nice to wake up to after some sunny weather. It's very sunny here, but it's very chilly. But I'm delighted to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
You're very welcome. So I'm just going to contextualize. Welcome to all the social media platforms, Dons La Planet. Even went French there. So I'm just going to blow a bit of happy smoke at you after this initial theme tune music, which just sets a bit of context. And then I'll see you on the other side of this. I think a postman might be about to knock on my door. Hold the line, caller. Is he going to knock? No, he's gone away again. That's good. So the joys of Zoom, sometimes that happens. So welcome. This is a live recording of the Good Listening To show. I'll explain a bit more. Thank you for being here on LinkedIn, YouTube, X, Twitter, Facebook, all that shebang. And particularly welcome if you're part of Mark's awesome arts and culture network. Here's the introduction music to the Good Listening To show, stories of distinction and genius. You don't have to necessarily keep quiet, Mark, during this, but I'll see you on the other side of this because I'll edit it back on later. Here we go. Oh. Welcome to another episode of Whack the up the
Listening
vol.
To show, your life and times with me, Chris Grimes.
That'll be me.
A storytelling show that features The Clearing, where all good questions come to get asked and all good stories come to be told. And where all my guests have two things in common. They're all creative individuals and all with an interesting story to tell. There are some lovely storytelling metaphors. A clearing, a tree, a juicy storytelling exercise called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, some alchemy, some gold, a cheeky bit of Shakespeare, and a cake. So it's all to play for. So yes, welcome to the Good Listening To show, your life and times with me, Chris Grimes. Are you sitting comfortably? Then we shall begin.
And there we have it. We shall indeed begin with an auspicious day in the Good Listening To show, Clearing. This is the storytelling podcast and radio show in which I invite movers, makers, shakers, mavericks, influencers, and also personal heroes into a clearing or serious happy place of their choosing to all share with us their stories of distinction and genius. Distinction and genius. And this is the adorable and incredibly talented Mark Walmsley, who is the proud curator of the Arts and Culture Network, which I congratulate you for, because actually you've created a monster of awesomeness because it has 140,000 members through LinkedIn. And your ability to network and also your generosity and warmth within what you transmit and omit is something to conjure. So, Mark Walmsley, you are extremely welcome to the Good Listening To show.
I'm delighted to be here. Thank you very much, Chris.
And you just had the sound of one man clapping there. You're welcome. No extra charge. Although we are streaming across the interweb globally as we speak. So how's morale, first of all? What's your story of the day, please, Mark?
Story of the day. Cold, I would think. But morale is good because it's sunny. It's always great to get... I don't know if it's an age thing, but Fridays seem to come around a lot quicker these days.
Yes.
Summer school holidays were 7 weeks, but felt like a year. And now look at us. You start work on Monday morning and suddenly it's Friday afternoon. But I'm very well, thank you, Chris. I'm very, very well.
And I'm really, really excited to curate you through the journey and the story of the Good Listening To show. But first of all, just a really deliberately, obviously clunky networking question that we all get asked. And in fact, you should be a samurai at how you answer this. You know, the most awful clunky question we've all got to navigate in our lives is, oh, hello, what do you do? So what's your favorite way of avoiding or answering that question? You are the samurai of networking, so we're all listening with bated breath. But how do you like to avoid or answer that question, Mark?
I love to avoid that question, and I advise people to avoid the question or evade it.
Yes.
Because once you tell people what you do, you're in a box that they've created in their head, to which they understand to a greater or lesser extent what that means.
Yes.
And if that box is not something that they find attractive, compelling, and interesting, you've lost the chance to be liked by them before they put you in that box. So I try to evade that. I've had some lovely introductions from people. I met a young lady at a networking event, and I'm afraid I did end up asking her what she did, and she said, I count other people's money. It was a lovely way to introduce herself as an accountant. But I call myself the chief of staff. My job is to create connections that start conversations and result in collaboration. That's my job.
And you have something very silky that I like in terms of silky skills. You've got something called an operator word, which I hope you will talk about in what we're going to explore.
Do you want me to mention that now?
Well, just before you do, you asked me before we started, can you hear my fan? I think I can hear your fan. So if you don't mind your toes getting less toasty.
Yep. That'll turn off in 30 seconds. There we go.
So if you end up with frostbite during the course of this, then I apologize. So sorry, that was just me getting you to turn the technology of the fan off. But yes, you can either talk about the operator word now or whenever you like. What do you think?
The operator word, yes, for those who are not familiar with it, it's the word that goes before the word that they understand that gets them asking more questions. So forensic accountant, for example, preventative osteopath, visual tribute artist, something that creates a little bit of cognitive dissonance there that allows people to, I call it the wait what moment.
Wait, what? Yeah, love that. Yeah, yes.
So that when people think they know, so I'm an abstract oceanic artist. Wait, well, I get the artist bit.
Yeah.
I kind of understand abstract and oceanic, but I need to know more.
Yes.
So yeah, I call it the opera, and it's based around somebody's identifying characteristic as a person or a business or a brand. So,
and in fact, that came about for me. We've had wonderful conversations in our time together, but not because of you, but also endorsed by you. I call myself a motivational comedian. There's that just sort of hook word that gets us into, as you say, the operator word, and your ability to help people get clearer about their proposition and their brand is something I know you also specialize in. So we'll get you on the open road for you to go as deep as you like, where you like and how you like into the structure of what we're going to explore together. So shall we get you on the open road of the construct of the Good Listening To show?
Yes, looking forward to it.
There is going to be a clearing a tree, a lovely juicy storytelling exercise called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There's going to be a couple of random squirrels, a cheeky bit of Shakespeare, a golden baton, and a cake. So it's absolutely all to play for. And so let's get you on the open road. As I say, interpret the shaking of the canopy of your tree in a moment, however you like. But on the open road, first of all, energetically, it all takes place in a clearing or serious, happy place of my guest's choosing. So Mark Walmsley, proud curator of the Arts and Culture Network, where do you go? Where is your clearing? Where do you go to get clutter-free, inspirational, and able to think?
It's Kendall Park in Hullbridge on Crouch in Essex. So a couple of years ago, my wife and I downsized when our last child left the house. We changed the locks and put the house on the market. And downsized to a very small riverside property in rural Essex on the River Crouch. And between us and the river is a nature reserve, a small park called Kendall Park. And in there's a fallen tree, and somebody's carved Kendall Park into the side of it, and that's where people sit down occasionally. But it's really quite it's not remote, but it's a little bit of a hidden secret there. So Kendall Park next to the River Crouch in Hullbridge in Essex would be my clearing space.
Oh, I love that. You found your own little Dingley Dell in Kendall Park. And who carved the tree, I wonder?
I imagine it was the wonderful people who I meet a lot. They've done a very clever thing. They've used crushed seashells to create luminous paths in the park, because it's not lit, obviously, but these white shells are clearly visible, and they do a great job of laying those down. I imagine they did this with a chainsaw rather quickly.
Because if you saw anything about graffiti in trees, if you take the time to look, there are people having carved, swark or hearts that sometimes are hundreds of years old, which is really fantastic to see.
Yeah. So Kendall Park would be my clearing space.
Lovely. And being in Essex, you're probably quite a close neighbour of Jamie Oliver, I imagine, because he lives in Essex too.
Yeah, his father, I don't know if he still does, but in Paglesham, quite close to us, Paglesham, it was his father's pub. So yeah, there's that connection.
And I grew up in Southend-on-Sea. I know that's Essex as well. So I'm just tinging. I'm making connections with you. Do you see what I'm doing there?
I know, I love it. And did you know then that the Southend is actually called Southend because it's the south end of Prittlewell?
Ah, no. And I lived there for all those years and I didn't know that. But there was a joke about Southend and when the tide goes out, it's sometimes called the turd goes out. I remember that.
Yeah.
That's giving them a harsh reputation. But then the joke that went along that is that the breaststroke was developed in Southend. Anyway, I'm not trashing Southend. It was.
Oh no, I think we've got a blue badge now, or whatever, a blue flag, and we have the longest pleasure pier in the world. So
what an accolade, with the longest pleasure pier in the world. Wonderful. So here we are then in your wonderful Dingley in Kendall Park. I'm now going to arrive with a tree within your clearing. It could even be the very tree that has Kendall Park sort of hewn into the bark. And now you're going to shake your tree to see which storytelling apples fall out. How'd you like these apples? And this is where you've been kind enough, excuse the comedy props that will come out at various points, but this is where you've been kind enough to interpret the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, which you'll see on the bark of the tree, although it's slightly obscured by our lovely faces too. So this is where you've had 5 minutes, Mark Walmsley, to have thought about 4 things that have shaped you, 3 things that inspire you, 2 things that never fail to grab your attention, and that will be where the random squirrels come in, borrow from the film Up. And then the 1 is a quirky or unusual fact about you we couldn't possibly know about you until you tell us. It's not a memory test, but my invitation to you now is to interpret the shaking of the canopy of your tree as you see fit. So over to you.
Would you like, there were 2 anecdotes that sprang to mind that kind of that probably fall into the 4 or the 3, the things that inspired me. Stop me if I go on because I can. Okay.
That's why we love you. That's great. You're going on beautifully already.
I don't know if I told you the Buddy Rich story when we last met, but when I was 9, I'd been learning to play the drums for 2 years. And my teacher said to my father, you really should take Mark to see Buddy Rich play. But I can't because I'm on tour with the Philharmonia Orchestra. So Dad said, okay, I'll take him. So Dad then ended up away on business. So Mum took me, 9 years old. I had a suede jacket on with tassels. I remember it. So there I was sitting at Ronnie Scott's at the age of 9. And on came the band and it was wonderful. Ronnie Scott's is a lovely venue because it's so intimate. You feel close to the musicians. And Ronnie Scott comes out at half time when the band are taking a break to tell rather blue jokes, which he didn't think I ought to hear. So he asked one of his helpers to take me backstage to meet Buddy Rich. So off we went, my mother and I, and this mountain of a man was sitting there with towels all over him at half time. And he reached up to above the wardrobe next to him and pulled out a pair of sticks and said, if you can play a paradiddle on my knee, you can keep the sticks. So
Paradiddle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you know what a paradiddle is?
I think I do, but tell us what is a paradiddle, please?
It's right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left.
Say that again. I'm glad I asked you. What's a paradiddle?
Right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left. Ideally, fast with bouncing. So I did, and he said, that's good enough. You can keep the sticks. So I then went back to my seat and did the second. We watched the second show, which was great, and I loved that. And that would be an inspiring moment for me. One of them. I went on to study percussion and drums, and played in the City of Birmingham Symphony Orchestra. Played the drum kit in West End shows. So that was an inspiring moment. Just before he died, he played the Cliffs Pavilion in Southend.
Ah, yes.
And I went to that one. I also knew somebody at the Cliffs Pavilion, which helped. I got to meet him again. And I said, you won't remember this, but I met you at Ronnie Scott's in 1975. No, 1972. And I was wearing a suede jacket with lots of tassels. And you said to me, if I and I met you and it was great. He said, I said, you won't remember that. And he said, has your paradiddle got any faster?
Unless he's always given away the sticks on the old paradiddle, but you know, that's such a precious story. I have seen a beautiful clip with him and Roy Castle in Parkinson Land way back when, and he was renowned for being able to do paradiddles on anything, wasn't he?
Yes.
On his knees.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah.
What an extraordinary story of thanking someone that influenced you all those years later.
Yes, that was great. What are my 5 things? 5 minutes. 4 things that shaped me. So music, that ticks the music box. Digital technology has shaped me.
I just commend you for ticked the music box. That's great storytelling right there, because of what a music box is.
Yes. Oh, I didn't mean that, but it just instinctive. So yes, I have my father to thank, because we didn't have computers in schools when I was at school. The only thing that remotely resembled it was probably an electric typewriter in the secretary's office. But my dad realized, I think, he died when I was 25. He was 50. But back then he realized that computers were going to be important. And so he bought me at quite significant expense compared to today's prices, over £500, I think, back in the 80s, early 80s. An Amstrad 8512 green screen word processor. And so I was largely self-taught, and I wrote a program for him in BASIC which catalogued his music collection. And so I got the bug for digital then, and many people my age or around my age didn't have that opportunity and have felt a little bit left behind.
And can I just say, you've conjured up a memory for me too. We must be a very similar age, because as I left school, I saw a cursor just winking on an MS-DOS thing. I thought, oh, what's that? And then I had to leave school.
Oh yeah, must be about the same time. And so in 93, when I wanted to experiment with email, I could.
Yeah.
And in 94, when I wanted to teach myself web design, I could.
Yeah.
But I couldn't have done if my father hadn't given me that leg up. So that would be dad and digital would be that one.
Lovely alliteration. And I'm very sorry you lost him so early.
Yes, it's very strange now. I'm 11 years older than he ever was. So whenever I see a photograph of him, I'm older than him.
Oh, we are the same. I'm going to be 62, for heaven's sake, in about a week's time.
Oh, so congratulations.
I'm just slightly ahead of you, I think.
I'm 61, yes. So
yes. Technically so am I, just to be pedantic, because
yes, well, there we go. Yes. What a great vintage.
So I'm 62 and 62. Anyway, la-di-blah. It's not about me, it's about you. So back to you. Yes, sorry.
Other ones, I think I've always loved writing or thinking and playing with words. So I think that has shaped me. Yes. I read an awful lot as a child, and I love that wordplay. I think my favorite the favorite output of that would be when I was asked to provide a name for a flower stall in a hospital, and I came up with stem cell. It's that kind of advanced is the wrong word, but rather fluid thinking about the way that words play together, and using lovely words that can mean different things, like inspired. I use a lot, because something or inspiring is even better. Inspiring great stories,
yes,
is both a doing thing and a actual thing. So,
and I have experienced directly your brilliant wordplay. I know you've got a delicious acronym of Perella, which is I think it's a South American. Where did you say it was from? Perella?
Perella, Parela, is a Brazilian boy's name meaning breathing spirit.
Yeah.
But for me, it's the acronym I created for the chronology of customer engagement. So it's perception, awareness, recall, engagement, loyalty, and advocacy. And arguably, all businesses and brands need to try and get from one end to the other. And if they do, like Nike, Harley Davidson, and Apple, they could probably double their prices and halve their marketing budget and still have a viable business. Most of us are stuck at perception and awareness. We don't know what we are, and nobody knows that otherwise.
And I know in a conversation we had as well, I know you thought you worked backwards. You had the name, then you worked out the acronym, which is incredible. Sorry, you had the name, then you worked out how to ally it to a customer journey proposition.
Yes, in effect, yeah. It's a nice aid memoir, Perella. And I've had people contact me months or years afterwards and say, oh, I still remember that thing you do called Perella. It's a nice hook for people to think about. And
if I may also, your DBR equals NRT is awesome as well in the world of acronyms. So I hope I'm not stealing any thunder from what you were going to talk about anyway.
No. DBR equals NRT is my formula for brand success, effectively, whether that's individual or business. It's an acronym for different, better, and remarkable equals noticed, remembered, and talked about. And if you can get that right, everything else you subsequently do is amplified in its impact. So, and that forms part of a workshop that I do called the Brand Discovery Workshop. So, yes, if you're not different, you're invisible. If you're not perceived as better, they'll be promiscuous. And if you're not remarkable in some way, they won't talk about you to their friends. So it was largely inspired by the marketing philosopher Seth Godin, whose London meetups I used to organize. So yes,
I hope you're going to pass the golden baton to Seth Godin later on, obviously. So,
I would love to. Yes, wouldn't that be great?
But I commend your acronyms to the house, and I think I loved it when I heard it, because it's just really intriguing and hooking. Coming full circle back to your operator word, I think you're suffused with things that hook or make us feel, wait, what? Which is what you said is your
and all of that comes together in what I call super passion, which is a cross between a superpower and a passion. And what you love is not necessarily what you're good at, but when, as John Ruskin said, when love and skill come together, expect some magic. So and my super passion seems to be making connections that work. And I'm a music, arts, and culture fanatic. So connecting people in that sector makes perfect sense to me. I'm in the best job in the world. So that would be the 4 things that have shaped me, I guess.
Delicious answer. Thank you very much. And if there's any overlap, don't worry, but we're on to 3 things that inspire you. As I say, if there's overlap, doesn't matter, because you're actually interpreting the canopy beautifully, because you're weaving in and out of the boughs of the tree.
3 things that have inspired me. My wife inspires me without wanting to delve too deeply. She was a single. We grew up in the same road as teenagers. I hit her radar, but she didn't hit mine, because there was 3 years between us, and that makes a difference when she's 16 and I'm 19. But our parents were good friends, and we lived in the same cul-de-sac together. We went off our separate ways, married other people, both got married to other people in the same year, not knowing. We had no contact during that time at all. And I moved back to Hockley in Essex in 2010, and we bumped into each other. Then we've been married. That was 11 years ago. We've been married 7, and we have a lovely blended family now. But her story is inspiring for me in that she was living in a kind of park home with no job, car, with 2 young children on her own 20 odd years ago, no, 25 years ago, perhaps. She's now, having pulled herself through that whole experience, and I wasn't there to help. We've only been together for the last 10 years. She's now, she now has an MBA. She's a fully qualified accountant, a Microsoft accredited Excel expert, working on some lovely projects, delving into formulas and spreadsheets, and loves it. And she's been using Excel since it started. So the transition that she's created for the benefit of 2 of our children is inspiring to me. So she is she's an inspiration. Fatherhood has become an inspiration, and having 2 grandchildren now, which
Yes.
I love. I take Wednesday afternoons off to spend with them, both on my own, which is brave.
How old are the grandchildren?
Hallie is 2 and Alfie is 12 months, so just under a year. So
Also, I must just say, I love the story of you grew up in a cul-de-sac. She was part of your DNA. You went your separate ways, and then you came back to the cul-de-sac almost. I just think that's wonderful.
Yeah, and we did. We bought a house back in that same road, and that was the one that we downsized from to here.
You know that lovely expression as well, what's meant for you won't pass you by. You did pass each other by for a bit, but you were still meant to be. And so what was meant to be didn't pass you by. And
yeah, again, with the wordplay, we were out on holiday in France, and my wife, Jo, said, "How would you sum up our relationship in 2 words?" And my reply was effortless companionship.
Wow.
And if you've got that,
yes,
everything else is a bonus, you know. So that's something.
And what did she say as her 2 words?
She couldn't match that.
Yes.
So yes, being a grandparent is like I love being a grandparent because it reminds you of bringing up your own children, but you can give them back at the end of the day.
Yes.
Which is really nice. I do all the dangerous things that my daughter won't let Hallie do when she's with her. You know, I will encourage her to rock climbing, yes, up, you know, climbing here, there, and everywhere, horse riding, yes, you know, all of the things that Amy's terrified to do with her, I do with her. So yes, that's great fun.
Presumably you draw the line at crack cocaine.
yeah, we don't do that. Yeah. And then again, I think then Gustav Mahler is I remember when I was playing in the percussion section of the City of Birmingham Symphony Orchestra for 10 years. I was fortunate enough to do so when Simon Rattle was conducting, Sir Simon. Sorry, Simon. And when we opened Symphony Hall in Birmingham, we played Mahler's Second Symphony. And the last 10 minutes of that are a glimpse of heaven or the equivalent musically. We also played that same piece in his last concert as artistic director about 10, 12 years later. And so that has stuck with me enormously, and that inspiration. I don't know if we spoke about this last time, but sorry, Chris, was it
just the glimpse of heaven was beautiful. And just say the name of the movement again so people can look it up.
It's the last movement. It's the last 10 minutes, effectively, of Mahler's Second Symphony called The Resurrection. And it'll be on YouTube. It'll be on YouTube. It is on YouTube and Spotify, and I'm playing on both of those tracks, which makes it even more.
And Resurrection is obviously religious, and the Glimpse of Heaven, is that your own moniker for it?
Yes. I'm not religious, but if for those who are, that would be it. And I
promise you, we'll text you some of that music into the soundscape when this is now produced as a podcast. I think that's lovely.
Please do, and I'll look forward to the royalty for playing the cymbals at the end.
Awkward. Okay.
Yeah, so it's wonderful. In fact, that's one of the pieces in a playlist called Joy that I used when I don't know if we discussed this last time, but a couple of years ago I had a cancer scare, and I was very lucky. I went from diagnosis to all clear in 8 weeks without chemo or radio.
May I ask what it was? Was that prostate?
It was colon cancer.
Okay. Wow.
There is humor in these things. So I spotted something that shouldn't have been there in the loo, and thought I better go and check this out. So I had I insisted on a colonoscopy, and it turned out that polyps were causing what shouldn't have been there in the loo. But the guy said, while we're here, we'll have a look round. So he went further up and found the tumor. So it wasn't actually the tumor that was causing what shouldn't have been in there in the loo. But as I left, still rather dazed and confused about learning that I had cancer, but still.
That's another lovely music mention there, Dazed and Confused.
Yes,
Led Zeppelin, I think.
I was still fascinated by having just seen inside myself with that camera, and so it didn't really sink in. But as I was leaving, he said, "Mark, I've been doing this for 35 years. I'm afraid that's a tumor. Onwards and upwards." And I thought only somebody who did colonoscopies. I was very lucky.
And bless you for embracing your inner hypochondriac. That's a great message for the world anyway. I think you need to be hyper vigilant about your own instincts when you have a hypochondriac moment. Which
absolutely. If in doubt, check it out.
If in doubt, check it out. Love that.
Yeah.
We could be on to two things. Do you feel we've done the inspirations now?
Yeah.
So borrow from the film Up. This is a bit, squirrels, you know, what never fails to grab your attention, irrespective of anything else that may be going on for you in your awesome life.
Mine are rather parochial, perhaps, I don't know, but The Smuggler's Den is one of them. The Smuggler's Den is...
That's not a euphemism, is it?
The Smuggler's Den is a pub on the river, literally 2 minutes from our house. And it used to be a haunt for smugglers who would bring contraband into the River Crouch. Then it became a private members club, and now it's a pub. But most people think it's still a private members club, so it's nice, you know.
Yes.
Can
I just ask you live on air? Can I please invite myself round to the Smuggler's Den, and we shall enjoy an imbibing of beer together?
Yes, we must do that, and you must come on a Wednesday evening, which is open mic. Unusually in our area and wonderfully on our doorstep, they have live music 3 or 4 times a week at the Smuggler's Den, and it's a quirky place, right? It's like if you imagine a 1970s Butlins clubhouse with too many ornaments in it. That's the vibe. Okay, but it is pirate. It is
have they ever considered that for their brochure? That's a really good way. What's it like in the Smuggler's Den? It's like Butlins, and it's like got too many ornaments.
Yeah, but wonderful music, especially on I've never seen more guitars in one place at the same time, and it's a wonderful, quirky institution, and I can't walk past it while it's open, so that's why it's distracting. Even when
and explains your drink problem.
Yes. So that would be one. We're a bit of a hot tub couple. So we've got one here. I can see it there. We have a bathhouse there, which is like a covered area, which is nice.
Last time we had a conversation, you had a badger in your hot tub.
Oh yeah, we had a badger around the back of the hot tub. Yes, that wasn't. Yeah,
we've all had a badger in our hot tub.
But my wife and I, we're in there 4 or 5 times a week. It's an early evening treat, especially when it's rainy and cold. That's our moment where we just catch up, chat, make decisions, decide on advice to give children. You know, that's our
notice badgers.
Yes, that's our collective clearing. So, which is nice.
So you qualified that as a squirrel. The happy distraction of the blissful moments in the jacuzzi.
Yes, yeah, that's a distraction when we're not at the Smuggler's Den.
You also explained last time we spoke that you perceive your jacuzzi repair person as being different, better, remarkable, noticed, remembered, talked about as well.
Yes, and they've been back since you and I last spoke and did a fantastic job, put a lever arm on it. Yes, they're always this prompted an idea for a business actually, but this kind of level of responsiveness. I read somewhere that if you respond to an inbound inquiry within an hour, you are 60 times more likely to get it.
Wow.
Because most people don't. And if you can be responsive when somebody's expressing an interest in what you're doing, the implication is that you'll be responsive throughout the duration of an engagement.
Yes, because you I suppose you accelerate to trusted advisor status straight away because you've been respectful and responsive.
Yes, and if somebody is shopping around and they're happy with having spoken to you, they stop shopping around.
Yes.
So the sooner you get in, if you're the first person to respond in those circumstances, the 3 other people on the list might not get a call because they'll think, okay, let's see if it works out with Mark, and if it doesn't, then I'll call the other ones. So it did. I wanted to create a kind of emergency response unit business for those who it used to be a phone answering service, okay, but that's not how they come in now. They're coming in with Facebook messages. They're coming in with LinkedIn inquiries. So there is a role for somebody out there who wants to start a business. Be the person who monitors your clients' channels and responds within a minute. Because if you do that, it's money in the bank. So
it's like an oxygenated jacuzzi of customer service, if I may say.
Yes.
As opposed to the inverse of that, when it all goes wrong, when, if you pardon this expression, someone's taken a dump in the jacuzzi. We need to get out.
Yeah.
I've got a bell for rabbit holes. Cashier number 3, please. I went down a rabbit hole, which I'd like to apologize for there. I talked about things floating about in a jacuzzi, which had nothing to do with what you were saying. I apologize. So your 2 squirrels are lovely. Squirrels. And now a quirky or unusual fact about you, Mark Walmsley, proud curator of the Arts and Culture Network, that we couldn't know unless you tell us.
I once did a very dangerous stunt on live television dressed as Batman. Would you like the backstory?
Tell us more, please.
I used to run an event company, and I was called up by Warner Brothers in Regent Street because they were hosting the launch of a Batman Forever video game. And they wanted to close the store at 4 o'clock, turn the inside of Warner Brothers store in Regent Street into a Batcave, invite 300 journalists, have lots of big music and bangs and crashes, and for Batman to fall in through a false ceiling onto the proceedings, onto a stage, just at the right moment to launch the Batman Forever video game. Rehearsal, perfectly fine. Stuntman turned up. The stunt coordinator wasn't quite what I expected. I was expecting a kind of drag mechanism like you see on movies. It was a scaffolding pole, gardening gloves, and a harness. That was it. And the scaffolding pole was suspended across this round atrium of stairway. We built the Batcave ceiling with the logo on, spinning on the glass, and the intention was that the stuntman would be lowered down, push his feet through the glass, drop onto the stage, under which was a fan blowing air up, and he would open up his cape with the old and then go walkabout, and it would be a complete surprise. Suddenly he's there. The next night was the hottest June day in living memory. I remember that. And the stuntman didn't turn up. And the only person there who could get into the suit, who didn't have another job to do, was
Muggins.
It was Val Kilmer's suit from the film. It had all the bits that it was wonderful. It did take a little bit of talcum powder, but
shall we change? Yes.
So there I was, suspended 2 stories up in this suit, looking down. I had produced the event, so I knew when it needed to happen. And I said to the stunt coordinator, I will give you 3, 2, 1, lower me down. When you hear my feet go through, drop me and I'll fall the next few feet to the stage. That's not quite what happened, because as I was looking down through my legs, I realized I wasn't over the right place. So I had to start swinging to do that.
What could possibly go wrong?
And I said, right, 3, 2, 1, and he must have just gone. I took out the whole of the structure. I was meant to fall through the fake glass ceiling. I took the whole structure out, timber and all, landed on my arse on the stage, stood up quickly. But fortunately, everybody then went, oh, there's Batman, 300 journalists.
And tell me it was sugar glass. It wasn't actual glass, was it?
Sugar glass, yes.
Yeah.
What we hadn't anticipated, though, was that when the fan came on, and because I'd taken the structure out rather than just the glass, these splinters were coming flying up from beneath my feet. So bits of wood were going ding, ding, ding. And I thought, oh, Lord.
So rather than sort of 3, 2, 1 delicately lowered, it was 3, 2, 1 incoming. And then
yes. So I had to do a walkabout, and I thought, right, I'm keeping the suit. Sod it, I'm having this suit.
Yes.
I kept the suit, and then on Thursdays, the production company rang up and said, Mark, have you got the Batman suit? And I said, might have. They said, you can either bring it to us today or you can go and open Toys R Us in Aberdeen on Saturday. So I chose the latter. Have we got time? Because this is the last part of the
yeah.
So there I was. They said, "Oh, I charged them £1,000 to try and price myself out," and they said yes. So they said, "You're flying up with 2 Power Rangers, Mighty Mouse, and Barbie." I thought, okay. So I went to the airport the afternoon before, and like an idiot, I was walking around looking. I was looking for Power Rangers.
Was that because you went to the airport in your Batman suit?
I didn't. I wish I had. So I got there. I did actually meet I saw somebody who looked like she could be Barbie, and I risked it, and I was right. And so we got up early. Once we flew to Aberdeen, they took us to the hotel. Got up early, got to the store, dressed up. Barbie did look magnificent. So the chap who was the manager said, "Right, you're neither American nor Scottish. Please don't speak." He said, "Just hover around, run around a bit, wave your cape, stand by the merch, and we'll be done by 4. And I thought, this is the easiest £1,000 I've ever earned.
Because that's a bit like Darth Vader. They never wanted him to speak because it was that chap who had a really squeaky voice.
Yes. So I was standing there like this, doing a human statue next to the tiny little plastic models of me in Toys R Us. And this family came past, and this young kid was clearly a Batman fan. He had a Batman hat on, and he knew Batman was going to be there. So I sort of mentioned, and he said, "Dad, can we have one of those?" in a Scottish squeaky accent. He said, "No, that's £1, son. I'm sorry, can't afford that today." And I thought, bloody hell, I'm sitting here, standing around doing bugger all, earning £1,000. So I went to the manager and I said, I'd like to give that little £1 statue of me to this little boy. And the manager said, "No, you can't do that. They'll all want one." But I said, "Well, I'll pay for it." And he said, "No, still can't do that." Anyway, so that kid was in and around me most of the day. Another family came past nearly towards 4 o'clock, and I was like this again, so I couldn't see what was happening down there. And the young son decided to wallop me in the utility belt, right? And his mum came up afterwards and said, "I'm so sorry about that," and rubbed my arm. And she said, "Is that leather?"
Oh, Gordon Bennett, it's escalating.
Yeah. Anyway, to finish the story, I'd been running around a bit. I thought, I've got away with this. Over the tannoy comes the announcement: "With all the superheroes, please come to the Radio Aberdeen stand in the car park for the superheroes dancing competition." And I got out there and I thought, oh my Lord. And sitting right at the front was little lad.
Your best fan. Yeah.
My best fan.
Your bat fan.
The DJ said, and the prize today is a Batman bike worth £200. And whoever wins the dancing competition can give it to anyone in the crowd they want. So I grabbed Barbie and we salsaed, and they did a clapometer and I won, and I picked up the bike, and it was like a great pleasure. I gave it to this little kid.
The kid who only moments before slapped you in the utility belt got a free bike. I love that.
No, it was a different child who slapped me in the utility belt.
Oh, okay.
It
was the hero child who you desperately wanted to give the £1 statuette to that got the bike.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Holy generosity, Batman. That was fantastic.
Well
done to you. So we've shaken your tree beautifully. And now we stay in the clearing, which is Kendall Park, near that lovely tree, luminous eggshells. I don't mean eggshells, I mean shells. And now we're going to talk about alchemy and gold. So when you're at purpose at Mark Walmsley, what are you absolutely happiest doing in what you're here to reveal to the world?
Happiest doing, it could be a number of things. I think at the moment it's grandchild related. I was walking with my granddaughter Hallie. We passed a shop in which was a bike, ironically, and she said, "I want one of those, Ran," because she calls me Ran. I said, "Well, I would like, because I want doesn't get anything, and that will have to be for your birthday." And she thought about it for a while. She's 2, And she said, Ran, it's my birthday. So it's out of the mile. You know, I love the Buddhist concept of Shoshan, which is to approach a subject with the mind of a child, which we can do and computers can't. And she is a walking example of thinking differently, and all that lovely creativity that's in there. So I'm at my happiest at the moment with my granddaughter, and of course, ideally with my wife and my children as well.
Lovely. Within your jacuzzi with a badger floating nearby. That's beautiful. Yeah. Lovely stuff. I'm going to award you with a cake now. So this is. Do you like cake, Mark Walmsley?
I do like cake. Yes.
So apologies, it's at this point only a metaphorical cake. But when you take me from a pint at the Smuggler's Den, I'll bring you a cake. So what type of cake would you like?
I'd like a fruit cake made by my grandma.
That'll be harder for me to organize, but that's good. I love that. Okay, now you get to put a cherry on the cake. And this is stuff like, what's a favorite inspirational quote, first of all, that's always given you succor and pulled you towards your future?
Seek first to understand. I find myself saying that a lot. We often leap to conclusions, try and find the answers before we fully understand either somebody's emotions or a professional's challenges. Seek first to understand. There's a question I ask when I'm interviewing people, which separates strategists from tacticians. And that is, how would you go about designing a spice rack for blind people to use? And the vast majority of people answer, braille, heat, position. They leap straight to the tactics and the answers. But when somebody answers, do you know what? I think I'd probably go and speak to some blind people and ask them what would work for them. If anyone answers like that, I hire them on the spot.
Wow. Yes.
So seek first to understand.
Lovely answer. Gorgeous, in fact. And now, what notes, help or advice might you proffer to a younger version of Mark Walmsley?
Start a pension. Spend more time cleaning the lower jaw of your teeth than the upper. There was, those were the times. Learn an instrument. As I said to my son, being a good stockbroker won't make you a good pianist, but the opposite is the case. Be creative and try to hang on to that childish curiosity that we have, and find the third way. And I would tell myself of the decision-making process I now go through. When I've got a decision to make, I ask myself 3 questions. And if I can't answer yes to all of them, I'm not making a good decision. And those questions are we addressing the real need? Have we thought of all the options? And have we thought all of those options through to their logical conclusion? If you can't answer yes to all of those questions, arguably you might not be making the best decision. We want jam, but we need bread. My wife is the queen of the third way. I'm a rather binary decision maker. It's either this or that, but she can say, well, what about this? Of course. Why didn't I think of that? And then having decided on what's the best option, think it through. What's likely, what then? So that I would give that bit of advice to my younger self, I think, and brush your lower teeth more.
Great answers. And I've heard the what then described as something called a pre-mortem as opposed to a post-mortem. We can all do it better with hindsight, but often if you do a pre-mortem, it's okay, what could go wrong with this if we decide in this way? I loved that. Okay, now we're ramping up to Shakespeare in a moment to talk about legacy.
Okay.
More about that in a second. But just before we get there, this is the pass the golden button moment, please, where you're going to say Seth Godin, obviously. But now you've experienced this from within, who would you most like to pass the golden thread of the storytelling along to in your network? Sorry, that gesture's a bit thrusting. It reminds you of your colonoscopy, no doubt. But who would you most like to pass the golden baton along to?
I would like to suggest you the golden baton goes to James Mathewson in Jersey. He's a long-time friend. He is involved with all sorts of fine art and NFTs and luxury, terribly well connected, inspiring chap. So that's who I would suggest, James Mathewson.
Thank you for that gift, and your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to furnish me with a warm introduction to James Mathewson, please. And now, inspired by Shakespeare and all the world's stage and all the men and women merely players, this is the actual Shakespeare. It's not a first folio, but the actual book I bought myself when I went to the Bristol Old Vic Theatre School. And it says in the cover, Chris Grimes, 16986. So it's the actual complete work. So I won't read the whole book. We haven't got time for that. But this is borrowed from the Jacques speech in As You Like It about the 7 ages of man. So how, when all is said and done, Mark Walmsley, would you most like to be remembered?
Love that. I heard the story once about a chap who went to a funeral in his dream, and it was his own funeral. And he had to listen to the speeches that people made who wanted to talk about him, wife, children, friends, work colleagues. And the challenge was to write down what you would like those people to say about you in those circumstances. And that's a wake-up call. It really is. You know, you might have a cup that says best dad ever, but it's not the only one. I think my legacy is built into the Arts and Culture Network, in that I'd like it to become, by the end of the decade, this is my JFK-like mission, I'd like it to become a global arts and culture support foundation, donating lots of money to people who need it in the arts and culture sector, nominated by members without an application form that deters most people. So what are you doing? That sounds good. If we get more of that, then we get that. Here's the money, go make your art. And I'd like that to carry on after I put my feet up.
Lovely answer. And if I may, was that also, you said a JFK, but did you mean MLK, as in Martin Luther King, I Have a Dream? Sorry, I wasn't being pedantic, but
Well, JFK by the end of the decade, we're going to put a man on the moon.
Thank you. I'm so glad I asked. And also, I Have a Dream reincorporated. Yes. So when you put your feet up, it will keep, and I don't doubt that legacy is secured. Mark Walmsley, as this has been your moment in the sunshine. Oh, actually, there's one other question before that. Where can we find out all about Mark Walmsley and everything you're up to on the old interweb, please? And particularly,
fortunately, on the old interweb, Walmsley is an unusual surname. So I'm easily found using Mark Walmsley, or Arts and Culture Network will find the Arts and Culture Network. But yes, Mark Walmsley will normally find me.
And Arts and Culture Network, I have to say, is just a goldmine of fellow, your vibe attracts your tribe. I'm delighted to be part of your network, and I've also been delighted in the conversations we've had. They've always made me feel full up with warmth. So thank you very much.
That's my pleasure. As
this has been your moment in the sunshine in the Good Listening To show, Stories of Distinction and Genius, is there anything else you'd like to say, Mark Walmsley?
We should always regret the things we do in life, not the things we don't do. That would be my parting shot.
Always regret the things we did do.
Yes, regret the thing. If you're going to regret it, make it something that you tried rather than didn't try. So would be my, what's that lovely saying? I'm here for a good time, not a long time. Depending on your levels of faith, make the most of it, and don't be afraid to try. Write a press release 10 years hence, looking back at what you've achieved.
Can I just say, you've been an absolute dream guest. That was just a delight and a privilege to curate you through the journey of this show. Thank you so much. So, ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to Mark Walmsley. Don't forget to join as a fully paid up member of the Arts and Culture Network to achieve the MLK, JFK dream that Mark Walmsley has. If you'd like a conversation about being my guest in the show too, you don't have to be past the golden baton as James Mathewson was, but check out thegoodlisteningtoshow.com. And of course, this is all about helping you to, tell your story and amplify what you're up to. So thank you so much, Mark. Would you like to say anything else now?
No, thank you. This has been a delight. I'm normally the interviewer, as you know, so it's always a pleasure to be on the receiving end. But Chris, this is a great show. Thank you so much for all of the work you do to entertain and inform us, and meeting the lovely people that you have on the show. So thank you very much.
Thanks everybody for watching across the old interweb. I'll just wrap this up with playing an outro as well. So cop a load of this, and
you've been listening to the Good Listening To Show with me, Chris Grimes.
Thanks for coming.
If you'd like to be in the show too, or indeed gift an episode to capture the story of someone else with me as your host, then you can find out how care of the series strands at the goodlisteningtoshow.com website. And one of these series strands is called Brand Strand Founder Stories, for business owners like you to be able to tell your company story, talk about your purpose, and amplify your brand. Together we get into the who, the what, the how, the why you do what you do, and then crucially, we find out exactly where we can come and find you to work with you and to book your services. Tune in next week for more stories from the clearing, and don't forget to subscribe and review wherever you get your podcasts.
And relax, I'm off to play tennis. Thanks so much. I'm just going to press end stream, and see you soon, Mark. And please, can I come to the pub?
Yes, come to the pub.
Wonderful. I'll bring my own badger for the qualification to get into the jacuzzi as well. I will see you soon. Thanks so much. Bye.
Take care. Bye.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching.